Hi, this is Dave McGuire with McGuire & Son Sawmill. It's been a few days. Figured I'd make a short video on explaining exactly why I've done this sawmill the way I have. This sawmill is rightfully named Twice the Hard Way. That's the name of the mill. It's an old bell saw. It sat out in the weeds for years and years and years. We rescued it, brought it home, disassembled it, rebuilt it, re-engineered some things, rehammered the blade, new teeth, new blah 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 right down the line. I was told when I got it, the best thing to do would be just to cut it into scrap, throw it in the junk, and go buy a bandsaw mill. Well, I have a love and an affliction for old pieces of machinery that have been forgotten and left to rot. I just couldn't do it. I had to bring it home. And in the process, I've had to teach my sons how to weld, how to machine, how to engineer stuff. It's been a process. I think I did pretty good as a dad teaching them. We made a lot of mistakes on this mill when we started with it. A lot of good mistakes and a lot of bad mistakes. And I mean bad. Things that could have killed my kids or could have killed me. So, if you want to join me, I'll show you things that we've done recently and exactly why we did it this way. So come on. The first thing I did lately was I replaced this entire 1-inch angle iron track. It's 1 by 1 by 1/4. We did that because, as anybody knows, that a joint on anything is going to be your weakest point. And with bell saw, it is their Achilles heel, is the joint of the track. Anytime you get a joint, you get flex. And these mills running these big heavy logs like we have, they flex. It'll flex. I've done everything that we can to unflex them. I've put stiffeners and bracing and reinforcement and everything else. It's still gonna flex. So to eliminate that, we got rid of the joints. Cut the old track off. Bell saw welded these with a 2-inch stitch every 24 inches down the track. We put a 2-inch stitch every 12 inches down the track to close that, because what happens is in the centers here, it gets packed with dirt, sawdust, and rust, and it expands, which binds your wheels up so that they will not roll smoothly down the track. It causes your lurching in your carriage. Second of all, after reading the manual and really understanding what they were talking about and taking it back to the farmer principle of an 8th grade education, a tape measure, a string, some wrenches, a couple of hammers, and thinking the way they thought, it turned into a huge math problem. And that math problem was, what you do to one side by adding a 1/4 inch thick rail, you have to do to the same side over there. You have to add a 1/4 inch plate. The book doesn't tell you that for the metal frame. It surely does for the wood frame. So, by doing that, the back casters are a 1/4 of an inch taller than these. By doing that now, and that, we have actually taken the mill, the carriage, and actually tilted it on just a little bit of an angle now. So instead of the mandrel bearing and the adjustment on the blade having to be closer to the top, now it's closer to the middle. The second thing that we did to get rid of some of the pull on the log was on the slitter. a viewer reminded me that these were 3/8 steel, and that's a 1/4 inch kerf. So you were actually pulling the log off the carriage. So by putting it on the mill and milling it off, it's not a pretty job, but you know what? The mill was the end mill was dull. It's okay. We'll take a flap disc, sand it a little bit. It'll be great. It's going to be fine. Now I've reduced this from pulling, so it doesn't pull anymore. It's still got to be adjusted to fit the back of the blade, but we'll get that. The next thing that was mentioned to me by another person was, you got to do something for a saw guard. So we've got a saw guard ready to put on here, but I'm not putting it on right now. I'm not going to do the fancy stuff just yet. I want this thing to cut true, and I want it to cut square. And we are almost there. The last 2 weeks' projects have been the pinion gears. Cow poop. These are the pinion gears. They're not a machine gear. We're making a machine gear, but they're not a machine gear. These are a cast iron gear, and they're a gear sprocket type deal. And what happens is, over the years and over the wear and the tear, they get a little sloppy. And that little bit of slop is enough, but you can see it's not worn here as much as it is here. So hold on. Uh-oh. But Robert's got the gear off the other end, so it doesn't want to slide. He locked this down to hold everything in place. So these gears are being machined. Plus we're making a 3D pattern of them. And we're going to find a foundry and we're going to cast them. And then we'll finish milling them in our machine shop. It's going to take time, take some money. But if I have 8 gears, that's 4 carriages. Kids will never have to replace the parts again. They'll just go in the shop and pull one off the cabinet and out of the shelf, and there you go. So otherwise, this mill is ready to cut. Made new blade guides that go on the front, the saw guides. It's been a process. It's taken a lot of my time, a lot of resources. With the time and the labor and the machinery that I bought, I could have very well gone out and probably bought a really nice wood miser bandsaw for probably $35,000 to $45,000, and it's still been all right. But I love old machinery that doesn't run. I love broken down machinery that doesn't run. Stuff that's been abandoned and thrown away and left to rot. I like bringing it back to life and going, look, it's still good. You could still make this work. It's just old. It just needed some love and some attention. And I think we've done that with this. We'll see. We've gone through and we've made measurements and blueprints of every component on this. And we are in the process right now of making for parts every component, including the arbor shafts, to build brand new bell saws. Someday somebody might want one. It's hard to say. Is it going to be cheap? No. It's going to be a labor of love. I think by teaching my kids all the things I've done with this mill, I got to spend the most time with them, learning, living, loving, and laughing at ourselves for the mistakes we make. but a Belsaw owner is somebody who can take absolutely junk and make it run like a brand new Singer sewing machine. And that's something to be proud of. It really is.
So you should tell our followers why there may not be a milling video this weekend.
Well, we were going to do a bunch of milling. As you can see, the deck's partly loaded up. However, Invest 92L is supposed to hit down here, and our area is being forecasted with about 6 inches of rain over the weekend. So,
along with possible tornadoes and
well,
hail and
tornado.
the normal stuff.
Yeah, so no videos out here because I'm not standing at 6 inches of water to mill lumber. We have some of the posts that we're just going to flatten on 3 sides for the new sawmill building and put them up. The building over top of this mill will be 20 foot wide, 50 foot long. Every piece of lumber will come off of this mill and be used. Every piece. There's a few things that Belsaw doesn't tell you for wrenches that you need. It looks like a big wrench. It really does. But you need this wrench, and that's my welds. I'm not a very good welder. Compared to my kids, I can't hardly see the bead on a MIG welder. Give me an arc welder, totally different story. I can see that. This, I can't see. You need a wrench this long and this big for the simple fact of adjusting the mandrel. That's the only reason you need this wrench, is just to adjust the mandrel. Because if you look down at the bottom, there's 3 bolts down there at the very bottom. You can see the bolt head sticking out. And then on the back are 3 nuts to adjust that mandrel up or down. Well, how are you going to adjust it if you can't get your stupid arm in there with a wrench to fit it? You got to make one. And just like that, it fits. You don't have to get your hands near the blade. You don't have to rip your arms up on the blade. You just got to make the wrench fit. That's it. Easy peasy. Not a problem. So, what our hope is after the rain subsides, we're going to run the mill. And we're going to make a lot of wood. I figured out the scale. It took me a while to figure it out, but I figured it out. I got it. Here's the thing about the scale. If you look at the old Belsaw scales, they all say the same thing. It includes 3/8 saw curve and planer shave. Every one of these say the same thing. So what that means is this 1-inch board is actually thicker than 1 inch until you mill it. And then it's going to take the kerf of 1/4 of an inch out, and then that will leave you 1/8 of an inch for planer shave, a 1/16 on a side. Not a problem. You plane that down, now you got your board. There you go. It'll mill it just over 1 inch thick here. This mills over 1.25 inches thick, like 3/8 of an inch. But the point is when you're done planing it, milling it, yep. These little tick marks I've made on here are for 2-inch boards. That's what they're made for. So, I figured out the scale. We had to make this in the shop. And this is patterned right off the Belsaw style. It goes in and it's square on the inside, round here, square to the inside, and then you can see the nut and the washer on the back and threaded on the back side. So you got a round, a square, and then a smaller round. And what that's for is so that they can adjust up and down the side rails. Here, it'll slide up and down in here to adjust this scale to get it to exactly where you want it. And that was how Belsaw originally wanted this done. Easy. So the joints are taken out. There is no more flex in the frame rails. See? The carriage is tight to the rail. The knees are set correctly. Now the next thing is on these posts. If you look, you can see these two grooves on the posts. You can see them clear as day. That is from this. This digs in Camlocks. It's an offset cam. Well, after years and years and years of running it up and down and locking it, it wears those grooves and it wears these out. This is one of the original ones.
Or your handle. Right there.
This is one of the original ones, and you can see the grooves are pretty worn down. So, in my shop, I've got brand new ones of these already made. They're already sitting there. They just got to be put on. That's it. If anybody needs some, let me know. But I've got brand new Camlocks. We machine these out and make these all brand new. The dogs are just plate steel that you cut, grind, and finish. Yep, easy. Nothing to it. When you break this down, it's just a bunch of jigsaw puzzle pieces that have to be put together. The tension on the cable is still pretty good. It could take a little bit more adjustment, but you know what? Let's see how she runs this next time. And if it ain't right, and if it ain't cutting within a 32nd of an inch, it's gonna be when I'm done. That is the goal, less than a 32nd of an inch. So, if your wheels are worn, we make them. We make the back wheels, the guide wheels, we make the triangles, we make the pinion gears, we make the ratchet gears, the ratchet pawls that go in, those ratchet pawls in there, we make them. The levers we make. The carriage gears we make, or the transmission gears we make. We replaced our transmission gears with bearings that are greasable because Belsaws are junk. They're basically a flipping garage door bearing that's sealed. You can't service it. So once it takes a crap, you're done. Mandrel bearings are available through Motion Industries. They're $54 a piece for the mandrel bearings. So if your mandrels are weak, sloppy, they got a little tick to them or grind to them, they're about $54 through Motion Industries. The PTO shafts that run these are custom made by Paul B. Ag Parts, and that was about $865 for a custom made for an 80 to a 100 horse tractor. Because trust me, 25 horse ain't cutting it. 37 horse ain't cutting it. Minimum of 50 horse, minimum. So, we've got 20 foot of carriage deck. I've got another 20 foot of roller, off-feed rollers out there to build. It's gonna be big enough that it's gonna be nice in here. This will be a good little business opportunity for our family. I can come off the road. I quit truck driving. Been doing that so long of it. It's scary to think of stopping doing something. But it's paid for all this. It's paid for all of our family living expenses. It's been a good ride. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. And gentlemen and ladies and friends, I love all of you. I may not always agree with what you say or like your politics, but I love you guys. My children know that I love you. There's nothing I won't do for you. There's no hell that I won't go through. And always ask yourself this. If you can define who you are in this world by 3 things in a box, pick 3 things, but understand they can't be worldly. But you got to know by looking at them that that's you. Mine have been bad things that have happened, the perseverance to overcome those bad things, and love. Love. Most of all, friends, love. I love watching all the sawmill videos the Triple T makes. I love all of frickin' Jeep's videos and Mark Galisi's videos. And Out of the Woods, he's a character. I love that guy. Never met him, never talked to him. Love him. But be good to each other. My health is not the greatest anymore, but I do the best I can. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. The Alabama sun's setting. It was over 100 degrees today. You can't ask for much better in this world other than the humidity to go away. Have a pleasant night, y'all. Night.